This is Rugby Unity. I am David Pembroke, and Bella McKenzie, the final of the Women's Rugby World Cup in 2025 has been played. England, comprehensive winners, 33 points to 13. Canada just couldn't quite get there.
Yeah, that's right. They didn't really have a plan B by the looks of it when plan A wasn't working. I thought, get to halftime and they'll come out and actually probably get into some shape, stop the one out running, because England were just so dominant with their defence and their breakdown work. So defence wins you games, and I think that's what England can really look back and be proud of that for that game, because Canada really threw everything at them and England just had an answer for everything.
It seemed to me, even from the beginning of the game, that was the mindset of the English. They were quite happy to let Canada run at them, because they obviously had all the confidence in the world that they could stop them in close. And by giving them more opportunities, they were able to draw a few more errors out of them. And the Canadians were not quite at the standard that they were in that first half against the Black Ferns in the semi-final.
Yeah, that's right. I think England did a really good job of, as you said, soaking up the tackles and then pouncing on Canada's mistakes. And the way that they play, there is going to be errors, and England just have too many classy individuals to let those mistakes just kind of sit there. So, yeah, I think it was a great first half performance from England. They kind of put them away in the first half, 21-8 at half time. But, yeah, I think, again, the conversion rate of England, I think they had 3.7 points per entry, and they're just so efficient once they're in the 22. So compared to Canada, who was in there 10 times and only came away with a couple tries and a penalty goal. So, yeah, I think you can really look at that conversion rate and see how efficient England are in that area.
And England had a kicking game and Canada didn't.
Yeah, that's right. I think we spoke about it last week. Zoe Harrison, boot to ball. She did a lot of contestables and made them 50-50. And, yeah, England's backs are and their kick chase too strong. So I think their game plan, they really executed it for that game.
Was there an air of, I know both of us last week thought that Canada might be able to get there, because we both felt that England hadn't quite played to their potential. And I still don't think England played as well as they possibly could, because they have so many talented players. But were you surprised that Canada couldn't get up for the final, couldn't get back to that level of performance?
I think perhaps for Canada, they probably played their final against the Black Ferns. The emotional toll of that probably took it out of them, the excitement of making a World Cup final, and maybe the occasion probably got to them in the end. And I heard a comment from John Mitchell that Canada hadn't faced England yet, so a bit, but yeah, I just think England way too dominant and in their defence, and defence wins you games. So full credit to them, I guess, in that final.
And in terms of the actual final itself, 81,885 fans. As a professional women's rugby player looking on, what was your sense? What did you feel? What was your reaction when you saw the crowd?
Yeah, it was amazing. Honestly, it made me feel really emotional just to see how much work England had done prior to that to get big crowds to their games. They said on an Instagram post, build it and they'll come. So I think for them, winning that final is kind of just the cherry on top. And full credit to World Rugby as well for putting on such a great tournament. And that's really the benchmark now. And hopefully leading into 29, we can see some big crowds start to follow the Wallaroos and really get a backing, because imagine playing at like a sold out Allianz with, 30,000 people, I guess, is how many Allianz can hold, would be amazing. But yeah, I think for England, it really was their 16th player or 24th player. I've heard a few of them made comments like that. And I went to probably one of the second most sold stadiums at Twickenham in Six Nations 2023. There was 58,000, and walking from the pub down to the stadium, just everyone there, the bus driving down the main road, watching them go in. It's amazing and gives you goosebumps.
So before we get into the details of the tournament and reflect back on the tournament, let's just perhaps look at some of the stars of the event and indeed the final. Who was your player of the final?
Personally, I think Hannah Bodeman, she had a really immense game. I know she got that yellow card that probably was a bit controversial and perhaps could have been upgraded to a red, but prior to that, she was so dominant in the scrums, dominant tackles. she's so good over the ball. I don't know how many turnovers she ended up, probably I think 2, but yeah, she was just a menace, a nuisance. She was everywhere, and we thought that Canada may be a bit more mobile for the English pack, but yeah, England really stood tall and showed their dominance. And I think once you have that scrum ascendancy, it's like a psychological battle, and I think England had that from the get-go. So yeah, Hannah Bodeman for me.
And same for me. I did think that she was very lucky to get away with that tackle, that it wasn't put on report, because it was.
Yeah.
It was an absolute sign of dominance from her. She just wanted to pick and drop, as in, okay, what else have you got? But to me, I don't know. I think she was very lucky not to go on report and get a red card.
I thought automatically when it is a yellow card, it goes under review to the bunker, or does the ref have to say yellow card and on review? Because I was very confused.
No, well, I think the referee has to make that judgment, because they go for that symbol, that cross symbol, where they give you that, they give you the symbol. So without the symbol, perhaps the bunker wasn't. Can't look at it. But anyway, it didn't happen. But wonderful player, wonderful character. But yeah, the fact that she does all of that hard work, but then, the way that she plays, as part of their attack as well. She has beautiful hands, as good as anyone else in their backline. And yeah, look, I thought Harrison at 10 as well, controlled the game well, played, the territory game, because as you said, once they were inside the attacking quarter, there was just no stopping them, really. They're just too efficient, too technically well organised, too physical, too strong. And yeah, I don't think any team in the world can stop them. And really, when you think about what are they now, they're 63 from their last 64, 33 in a row. And they're going to be hard to stop because they're likely to get a big surge of momentum, and we're going to talk about the domestic leagues coming up, and clearly the English Premier competition for the women is well organised, it's well funded, it's well structured, it's highly competitive. So it's only likely that they're going to improve. But we'll come to that conversation. But to the tournament itself, and certainly World Rugby is sitting back, smoking a cigar and thinking, well, there we go. Well, maybe not the women who organise this particular tournament, but others will be well pleased with, I think Alan Gilpin said that not only did it go to it went stratospheric. It went well beyond what their expectations were, and some of the statistics are very impressive. They sold 444,465 tickets to the matches, which is 3 times the number of tickets that was sold at the previous Women's World Cup. The attendance, as I mentioned, was 81,885. There were fans from 133 countries, and 53% of those fans were female. There were 219 million views on players' social media accounts, and that's important because a little bit later in this program we are going to be awarding our Content Creators Cup, so please stay tuned for that. There were 905 million social media impressions. The television audience for the final in the UK on the BBC, 5.8 million. The largest television audience for a women's rugby game ever, and that is an extraordinary number for domestic television. So they haven't published because they probably don't know what the global television number was, but if it was 5.8 million there on the BBC in the UK, you could only speculate that it will be multiples of that. And just in terms of the actual play in the tournament, ball in play, tactical kicking, There were more tries, fewer knock-ons. So the data around the quality of the play, and I think we could all see that just from watching the games, that it was at a much higher standard. So Bella McKenzie, that's a lot of numbers. But again, when you hear those numbers, what do you think as a professional women's player?
Yeah, I think they really set a benchmark now. That's kind of the standard for World Cups and rugby women's matches moving forward. So I think there's the blueprint. Australia can really look to use that and utilise those stats and put on a performance as good, because Aussies love watching sport, and I think leading into 29, the blueprint's kind of there for them, and hopefully we can kind of get the same numbers for 2029 World Cup. But yeah, it's been an amazing tournament. It's been really, really pleasing to watch all the games and analyse them and see the growth in the game and the product, and the amount of people going there kind of proves that, you know, everyone does watch women's sport and it is on the rise. So yeah, it's really, really pleasing to hear and see that.
So the stars of the show clearly have been the players, and they were probably of their own volition over time have used social media to build their profiles when they couldn't attract any interest from the mainstream media. So they've acquired the skills over time, but clearly there was an emphasis on building the personalities and drawing attention to the personalities of the players. And this was across all of the teams, not just the main teams and not just the stars. And I saw a nice quote from the England superstar Meg Jones, who said that, and she was speaking about the women's game more broadly, and she was speaking about the women's players. She said, "We've been leading with compassion, leading with vulnerability, and leading with love. It's what humans want, and so we're going to keep doing it." That's a fairly powerful sort of statement, isn't it, from one of the senior women's players globally, is to say, we've identified our path, we've identified who we are and what our identity is, and we're just going to keep at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's that authenticity that people love, and it's why they're getting people to the games. And I think for Meg Jones, she's had a lot of sadness in her personal life. For her to be that vulnerable and open on social media, I think she can really relate to fans and supporters and get people into the stadiums. But yeah, it's an amazing quote, and it's probably something that all teams really need to push for and show the players' personalities, show their uniqueness, their vulnerability, and really create content that people connect with.
Yeah, well, I for me, and I've said it, I don't know, probably 100 times so far on this Rugby Unity podcast, but also on the other Rugby Unity podcast, that I think the women have set the benchmark now for the men to reach, and it'll be some time before they're able to reach the quality and the standard of the content that's being created. The sense of humour, the vulnerability, the ability to poke fun at themselves. As I say, there is an example there, and I think, this is why I think World Rugby is so excited by the way that the women's game has developed, is that they know that this is the pathway to greater engagement. And the tournament itself had a very clever tagline, which is "the energy never stops." And so to me, that was great for the tournament, but it can now be picked up and kept moving. But that's the challenge now, isn't it? Whereas, the circus breaks down, the elephants move on, the sort of caravan goes away, there's not quite that momentum, but there is now a responsibility, not only for, and this again, it's another point that I raise everywhere. We can't just look to World Rugby and think, oh, well, World Rugby is going to solve the problem. They can't. If we can't look to the national unions and think they're going to solve the problem. It's really a collective of those 465 people who bought tickets, who have 50% who have never been to a game before, 95% who say that they're going to come back. Well, it begins with them and their behaviours and their actions, and what are they going to do to continue to ensure that the energy never stops. Of course, World Rugby has a responsibility. Of course, the national unions have a responsibility, as do the professional teams, as do the players. But just how do you, in your opinion, how do you keep the momentum moving because, and again, I've said this before, that I do think there was an opportunity lost post the most recent, the World Cup before in New Zealand, where there was similar types of vibes coming out of that final, which were just amazing. But, the game seemed to lose a bit of its momentum.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it. Just keep turning up to games. Players keep engaging with fans and supporters, and follow your favourite players on social media. See what they're up to, because that's the best way to find out about games. If it's not well marketed in the country or wherever it's being played, follow your favourite players, and they'll be posting about it. So I think, as you said, it is up to the fans and up to the supporters to keep it moving, keep it rolling, and not just rely on World Rugby, like you said, but rely on the people, the fans that have been engaged, and keep wanting to show up and support. I think that's probably the best way to do it.
So there was a conference during the week leading up to the tournament in London about the future of the women's game, and there are a number of areas of discovery and discussion. One of those, the rugby product and the calendar, and we'll come to that in a moment. Impact through partnerships was another stream. Data and insight to unlock commercial partnerships. I think that's an interesting one for the women's game to understand, how do they translate this, this river of data that they're getting in terms, or this data lake of, what is it, 905 million social media impressions, 219 million views on players' social media. That's all great, but what does it mean? What does it mean in terms of a commercial proposition for a brand to want to get involved? And the final line area of discovery or discussion at this particular conference was growing interest through personality and storytelling, which is exactly what you just alluded to. And Elma Schmidt, the very impressive South African commentator and broadcaster and podcaster, I saw a quote from her talking about this pyramid of pressure, which is really to the point of what you are just talking about, which is really about every view, every share, every mention, every engagement piece around that content goes to build pressure, and it goes to build pressure across where that surface layer of opportunity rests, which is quite wide. But it is just so important, isn't it, that people get involved and get behind the players, because they are the stars of the show.
Yeah, you're right. I think get involved and then stay involved. So keep following your favourite players, your favourite teams leading into the next World Cup and then the World Cup after that, because I think, as you mentioned, social media is it's climbing, and it's probably the best way to stay engaged and up to date with what's happening with your team and how you're playing. So, yeah, best way to do it, stay involved.
So that is the opportunity for people. And again, how do we stay involved? And we'll come to that in just a moment, but it's only right and proper that we recognise also the third, fourth playoff on Saturday as well. France and New Zealand, and the Black Ferns, too good for the French, 42 points to 26. And Braxton Sorenson McGee crossing for a couple of second half tries to put that out of reach for the French team. But interestingly, overnight, they have named the Player of the Year, the Coach of the Year, and the Breakthrough Player of the Year. And they are, in order, Sophie de Goede is the Canadian lock who was so outstanding in the tournament. She has been named as the Player of the Year. The Coach of the Year is the Red Roses coach, John Mitchell. And the Breakthrough Player of the Year, no surprises, the Kiwi superstar, Braxton Sorenson McGee, who finished the tournament with 11 tries. So, Bella McKenzie, not a whole lot of surprise in those selections, and congratulations to all of those three for the superb contribution that they've made to the sport this year.
Yeah, very well deserving. I think it's a testament to the way, especially Sophie de Goede. I mean, she didn't really play many internationals prior to the World Cup, so I'm not too sure how the point system works, but she would have gotten a lot of points from all of her games throughout the World Cup. And yeah, she's an outstanding player. She's only 26 years old, and her second nomination, I think, for World Rugby Player of the Year. So, yeah, amazing to see. And I guess for John Mitchell, how can you go against that record? And yeah, Braxton's just a freaky player and a name we'll be talking about in years to come.
We're not talking rugby, we're building it. Rugby Unity.
So it is this opportunity around the energy never stops, and where are these next best opportunities for people to engage with the women's game? Certainly in the Northern Hemisphere, they appear to be better organised, and certainly the women's premiership in England is the most mature of all of the women's leagues around the world, the professional leagues. It kicks off on the 24th of October. There are 9 teams competing. And indeed in France, in their Feminine 1 league, that kicks off on the 11th of October. And I think in an earlier program, I may have quoted something in the order of 30% growth, and this is across all areas of participation in the French women's game. But you would expect that in those 2 particular tournaments, Bella McKenzie, that there will be much increased interest in the women's game.
Yeah, definitely. I think I can only really speak for the England comp because I have played in it. They really market the games well. I know at Harlequins we have like a big game every year on Boxing, not on Boxing Day. I think it's just a bit after Christmas. So that's at Twickenham. It's a doubleheader with the men's. It always gets a big crowd, and the home games at the Stoop they almost always sell out for the men's, and then we get a really big crowd for the women's games as well. So yeah, I think the way they market it and the way they structure it, they use their big stars, they use their personalities to get people to the games, and I think they'll be building on the back of this World Cup momentum, and a lot of fans will be out at the games watching, which is awesome.
Yeah, which is, well, I think it'll absolutely turbocharge the women's game, and particularly that collaboration with the clubs, because not all of the clubs in the women's PWR tournament have first division or equivalents in the Prem, do they? I think the Trailfinders have a team, and I think is there one other team that doesn't have a Prem?
Lightning, Loughborough, but they're in Northampton. So
they're Northampton.
They play home games at Northampton Saints.
Right. Okay.
So I think they more have an affiliation with the university in Loughborough.
Right. Yeah, because for mine, I just think there is that real opportunity to play the games together at the same time, so as that when you're going along, and I think this is perhaps a pathway for rugby that you start to see, you go along and you watch the 2 games, and they are played together. I've told this story, I'm not sure if it was on this podcast or another, but I was out in the southwest of, not far from Canberra here, and I saw the Temora team play against West Wyalong in the women's, and then Harden played Burrawa in the men's, but they played one after the other. And it was this fabulous occasion where everybody was there. All of the communities had gathered to watch the games, and it was a women's game where women are playing rugby, and then it was a men's game where men were playing rugby, and it was just I think there's something in that as rugby grows, and certainly as a way of differentiating the offer that rugby has, where it can appeal to, well, that's the appeal of the game, isn't it? It's a game of all shapes and sizes. It's an inclusive game. And I think there is something there for administrators to have a look at as they keep scheduling. So once we get through those domestic leagues in the Northern Hemisphere, we don't know what Super Rugby looks like for next year. Super Rugby Pacific, we don't know if it's 1 round. We don't know if it's 2 rounds. We don't know what teams are going to be invited to participate. So one would hope that we are going to see some certainty about that, because I'm sure the players would like to know exactly what needs to happen as they get ready for next year, because it's time now it's time to have a rest, clearly for the Wallaroos, to get over the tournament, but not long after having their rest, they're going to have to get ready for the tournament, and it will be, you'll need to know when you're playing, where you're playing, how you're playing, who you're playing with. and also getting to know your coaches and everything else. So certainly someone would hope that there would be some certainty around Super Rugby before too long. And indeed, we then lead into the first of the World XV series that was announced in the week leading up to the Women's World Cup final, September, October. And again, we still don't know exactly what that looks like. We don't know who's playing who at what time or where. But hopefully we will soon know just exactly what that looks like. But Bella McKenzie, let's leave Super Rugby to one side. At least there does seem to be a little bit more shape and a little bit more direction in the future calendar for the women's game.
Yeah, I think World Rugby are really trying to align the international calendars so that the Southern Hemisphere and Northern Hemisphere can play a lot more, and it doesn't interfere with the domestic tournaments or domestic leagues, I should say, sorry. So I have heard that Pac 4 perhaps could be before Super W this year, which would really align with Six Nations over in England and in the UK, sorry. So
yep.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what the domestic calendar looks like, but yeah, it's really positive to see that the international calendar is starting to get a lot more structure and set in stone and easier for teams to play each other and prepare for those games.
Yeah, well, because it'd be great, or it will be great. Again, watching Six Nations and Pac 4 leading towards World XV in September, October, where we're staying connected to these athletes who we now know. We're getting to know them better. We want to know more about them. We want to see them perform. And it will be certainly compelling to watch as the game continues to develop. But there's not a moment to waste, people. If you have a responsibility in this area, we need to get onto it because we need to be able to keep talking about it. And our intention here at Rugby Unity is that we continue to talk about the women's game. We are going to continue to publish, but you've got to give us something to talk about. We can't just come here and talk. Well, we can actually. We can come here and talk as much as we like. But again, the energy never stops. So give us a hand, people, with that. Give us the certainty and let's tell these great stories and let's continue to focus on these great champions who have set such a remarkable example to the community about the way that they have gone about their business, the way that they have conducted themselves, the way the fans have conducted themselves. Our values-based sport, you need look no further than the absolutely appalling behaviour at the Ryder Cup this past week. I sort of play golf occasionally, don't really follow the Ryder Cup that much, but I could not get over it, just how abusive and foul. And having enjoyed the Women's Rugby World Cup and all the courteous and all of the goodness of the Women's World Cup, to then look at the Ryder Cup and think, what is going on? This is just appalling. But anyway, that's a side note. Did you see any of that? Did you?
No, I didn't.
You haven't seen it? Okay.
What happened? Was it the crowd? Or?
It's the crowd. Well, it's the crowd. The crowd, they're absolutely fully liquored up in upstate New York. And it's this sort of, Europe versus the US. And clearly, they've tried to build some sort of level of competition between the fans. Well, it's jumped the leash. It's now at the point of, they're abusing, and particularly Rory McIlroy, the great Irish golfer. He was being abused. He was being abused about things that had allegedly happened previously. His wife had, whether it was water or a beer thrown over her, and the players were abusing. And then he was having to, at some point, it was just, actually, it's worth going to have a look at to see just exactly what rugby never ever wants to go anywhere near, because it's the human form in its very, very, very worst at rugby. And I've got to say, although mainly blokes who look like they'd been, on the sponsor's product from early, but there was a female announcer who they had to drag because she got involved as well, using foul language. It was beyond. I have not seen anything like it. And whether or not it's a derivative of trying to bring more energy or more tension or whatever they're trying to do, but they ended up having to bring police onto the course. They had to bring dogs onto the course to keep it under control. So, yeah, anyway.
Gosh, who knew a golf tournament could get that rowdy?
Well, that's it. When I used to watch the golf back in the day, it was all very sedate and very meek and mild, and they'd hold up a sign and quiet please while the person... because that's my big thing in rugby is that we've got to retain the dignity of the kicker. I don't like this booing when it's
a very rugby league.
Let's just differentiate ourselves. Let's just be different. And if we have to be known for having good manners, well, there could be worse things for being known for. So anyway, but listen, congratulations to everyone involved in the Women's Rugby World Cup. And I do commend people to go back and have a listen to the interview that I did with the managing director of the tournament, Sarah Massey, and she explains it in quite good detail as exactly how they thought about the tournament, how they structured the tournament, how they planned the tournament, how they executed the tournament, and now obviously how they are going to be evaluating the tournament to take the lessons and then share those with, not only British sport, but I'm sure more broadly, I'm sure World Rugby will be taking it to the IOC and to other places as a case study of how you put a world-class tournament together. But listen, one of the things and one of the plans and one of the strategic plans that the tournament made right at the beginning was to make a call or encourage certainly all of the players, to bring their full selves to the tournament and to get involved in the social media side of the tournament. And here at Rugby Unity Podcast, we decided that we'd get involved and we would award, and here it is the first Content Creators Cup for the best or the player that we have adjudged best in the tournament for making that contribution about telling their story as part of the Women's Rugby World Cup. So we've been celebrating that creativity and the passion of the players, and it is the very first Content Creator Cup. And we've seen incredible videos, photos, stories that captured the energy of the tournament. It's been amazing to watch the rugby community engage with that content, and 219 million views on players' social media accounts. But I'd like to commend all of the players and all of the teams, but as you know, there can only be one winner. And after much consideration, the Content Creator Cup for the Women's Rugby World Cup of 2025 goes to Georgie Lily Perris-Redding, the flanker and back rower from the USA Women's Eagles team. Now, Georgie, she's created some cracking content, from fun trending videos to photos and behind the scenes. A special shout out to her What I Said When I Was Concussed video, which is absolutely hilarious. We must give some honourable mentions, of course, to the great Iona Ma from the USA. She, the biggest star in world rugby, men's and women's, and she continued to carve it up through the tournament, as well as Gwen Crabb from the Welsh team, Desi Miller from the Wallaroos, and Portia Woodman from the Black Ferns. All of them, some cracking content coming out of the World Cup. But it is congratulations to Georgie Lily Perris-Redding as the first winner of the Content Creators Cup, the Rugby Unity Content Creators Cup. The second Content Creators Cup will be awarded after the 2029 Women's Rugby World Cup in Australia. But a big thanks to everyone who shared their creativity in and around the World Cup, whether it was the players, the officials, the volunteers, or the fans. We've all also loved the content creators being embedded in the teams, and a big congratulations to them. We've been able to sneak a look at trainings and behind the scenes, and thanks to our community for telling us about your favourite creators during this World Cup. So together, you've all shown just how important and how powerful that storytelling can be. And as Elmer Schmidt said, it's all about that pyramid of pressure. So there we go. I'm sure Georgie is, there's highlights in her life and there's highlights in her life. She's just had a highlight of her life, and we will be engraving this very, very expensive pewter mug that we bought over in the Canberra Centre, and we'll be sending it to USA Rugby. So, Georgie, we look forward to engaging with you once you have that, and we'll certainly get you on the program to have a bit of a chat about that into the future as we sort of get ready for this next period of women's rugby. So, Bella McKenzie, there we go. I think we are now at the end of the Women's Rugby World Cup. We do need to talk about what happens after this week, but reflecting back, a final word. Listen, actually, before we do that, because there are also some lovely things that have been sent to us as well. At Rugby Unity, we do talk about the third voice, and that is the voice of the community. And thank you so much for engaging with us on our various social channels and sending in questions and comments that we've been able to read out over the weeks. And you do have to keep doing that, I'm afraid. You have to keep being involved because it helps us to understand where you are. But Bernie Cook on YouTube said, "What a great video podcast." Peter Papagiorgio says, "Great work, Bella." And LB on YouTube said, "Nobody was going to beat the Red Roses." And that is as it turned out. And it would have been great to have Georgia Miller and Amy Duplessis on the paddock, but oh well, big call, Bella, but I like it. Go the Black Ferns and go the Canucks Maple Leaves. Cheers from Brian, a Kiwi in Mooloolaba. So thank you very much. So listen, thank you, audience, for your involvement. But Bella McKenzie, perhaps a final word to you as we sign off from the Women's Rugby World Cup of 2025.
Yeah, I think it's been really amazing to see this podcast branch out and follow the women's game and follow it closely, and to have really, really insightful conversations. It's been really fun, and I think I don't want to wait till 2029 to see a TikTok from you, Pemby. You said you were going to do one, so I want to see one come out within the next week. So you're doing a TikTok trend? No, but in all seriousness.
I'm on TikTok every day. I'm just not dancing.
Yeah.
I'm talking.
I need to see a TikTok trend, but no, I think
okay.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been very different to talk about rugby in this way and analyse it and watch all the games really closely and from a different lens. And yeah, I'm just really grateful that you guys gave me an opportunity to come on this show and speak about women's rugby and something I'm really passionate about. And yeah, hopefully we've gained some new followers and some new fans along the way. So thank you, Pemby.
Yeah, no problem at all. Well, listen, there's no doubt about that. We started off, we were getting a few hundred views, and we've ended with a few thousand. So throughout the weeks, it's certainly grown, and there's no question that if we keep talking about it, we keep presenting it, and we keep turning up consistently. That's the key when you're making programs, is that you don't disappear. So that's our intention. Like, yes, today we're going to draw a line under the Women's Rugby World Cup, but we do have to think about what can we talk about? How can we keep talking about? How can we contribute to Elmer Schmidt's pyramid of pressure? Because again, there is going to be interest, and this is one of the great fears that I have, that unless we do keep talking about it, it will fall into a black hole. And then once trying to revive it and build it and keep it going again, it makes it a little bit hard. So we are going to do what we can to sort of keep the energy moving, keep the stories, keep asking the audience for what it is that they want to talk to. I think we need to feature more of the players who are involved, so we can perhaps bring some guests in to talk to them about what their thoughts are about the future of the game. We can talk to the coaches, we can talk to some of the administrators. So there's going to be a lot to talk about, and we can always find things to talk about, which we will do. But Bella McKenzie, thank you for being so generous with your time throughout this period, because it's been a lot of fun. You have brought that expert knowledge of the game and the players and the people and everything around it. And I know the audience have certainly enjoyed your insight. So on behalf of Rugby Unity, a very big thank you to you, and to you, the audience. Thank you for coming back as you have week after week. We will be back again next week with our next program about women's rugby. Not quite sure what it will be about, but we'll certainly work it out. We've got 7 days to do so. But listen, so very grateful for you to be able to do that. But if you would, like, share, subscribe, comment, just get involved. Just support this wonderful women's game. We do need to keep supporting it. We do need to keep talking about it. It's been so enjoyable to watch these great athletes perform at the standard that they have. A very big congratulations to England, 33 points to 13, winners of the 2025 Women's Rugby World Cup. So congratulations to them and congratulations to you, audience. And thank you so much for your support. But for the moment, please be kind to each other. My name is David Pembroke, and it's bye for now.